Hey, welcome to the Hope Sessions podcast, which is hosted by Jerry D. It is a weekly podcast where each week we will have a different guest on to chat and have them share their story of how they came to faith in Jesus and how he has changed their lives. So tune in and be encouraged by the different stories from ordinary people about an extraordinary God. Remember, hope is to life as oxygen is to the body. Enjoy the show. Hey guys, welcome to the Hope Sessions podcast. This is a new thing that I've started to do where every week I'm going to have a different guest come on and they're just going to come on and share their story about how they came to faith in Jesus and just for us to get to know them on the journey they've been on. And to kick things off, I'm actually so excited. I've got a dear friend to me. His name is Maurice Ford. If you're in the Court Church area or if you know him from some of our conferences, you know this guy is a living legend, an incredibly funny guy, but a great supporter and a great friend to any of us that know him. Mo, welcome to the podcast. How are you?
Very good. How are you, Jar?
Good. Thanks for joining, man. Honestly, I've been really looking forward to just being able to chat with you because I've known you for a number of years now, and the one thing I've never known is actually your story. So I'm looking forward over the course of this podcast just to get to know you better with just some of the questions and stuff I have. So are you ready to go with the rapid fire round?
Yeah, cool. Well to it.
Right. Are you a morning or a night person?
Nice.
Are you a tea drinker or a coffee drinker?
Both. More coffee, but both. I drink both.
Depends on the situation, does it?
Yeah.
Your favorite book that you've ever read?
Oh, that's a tough one. Well, I got to think. I just read one on Atlantis. That was pretty good. To be honest, it's a bit kind of out there, but it was interesting to read, you know. So
Brilliant.
I couldn't tell you my favorite, to be honest.
That's fair enough. Your favorite genre of music?
Oh, that's wide open. From I'll put it to you this way: I've seen 3 concerts in my life: Michael Jackson, James Taylor, and Metallica. So from that, take what you want. You know, that's
You're a bit of an all-rounder.
Anything, yeah.
Brilliant. I
love
it.
Outlaw Country, but I do.
What's your favorite lockdown snack?
Unfortunately, I have it next to me. An entire Easter egg.
Oh, brilliant.
3 for a $5. Tesco are killing me slowly, but
Cadbury's the only chocolate to eat.
Yeah, it's terrible. It's so good. Go on.
Have you got a favorite sport? Maybe a sport you like watching or playing?
Soccer. I love soccer. I love a lot of people don't know why, but I love cricket. Right. Hurling and football we grew up playing. I played pitch and putt, golf when I was younger, just about anything. Rugby, I like watching rugby. I never really played it. But yeah, anything except baseball. I can't stand baseball for some reason. It just drives me insane. Everything else I can watch.
I'm saying I pretty much follow every sport. The only 2 I won't is cricket and baseball. I don't understand what's going on at all.
When the lockdown finishes, we'll hang out and watch Ireland play England, hopefully, in the cricket, and I learn. Yeah, it's a great game.
Brilliant. What's your favorite holiday that you've ever been on?
Probably. There's a couple. We went on a holiday once with my mother and my 2 brothers when this is 28 years ago, maybe. It rained for a week. We were in a caravan. Everything that could have gone wrong did go wrong. And we still talk about it being one of the funniest things that ever happened. The funniest weeks. It was just, you can imagine 4 people stuck in a small caravan for a week. And it literally is coming down cats and dogs outside. It's frightening. We couldn't even walk outside. And yet it's brilliant, you know. So that's probably up there, yeah. If not the favorite one, yeah.
You made the most of it despite the Irish weather, huh?
Yeah.
Brilliant. So I know you're a guy of many jokes, right? And that's one of your many talents. What's your favorite joke? Would you like to share one, maybe?
Let me think now. Why did the chicken cross the playground?
To get to the chicken coop?
No, to get to the other slide.
Oh my goodness. I was thinking too much about it.
They're pretty basic when it comes to me. They're pretty basic.
And to close out the rapid fire round, Mo, what's your favorite TV show? Have you got maybe something you're watching that you enjoy watching?
I quite like gangster stuff.
Yeah.
Peaky Blinders was very good. I'm very interested in, I don't know, I suppose well, if I can throw a movie in there, it would be Once Upon a Time in America, which is a long time ago. It's 40 years old, nor near enough.
Yeah.
It's a kind of a gangster show, and it's about guys coming up through those eras and stuff. I always find that stuff fascinating, and why they made decisions, why they went the way they went. And some of these guys were actually, in real life, were very, very, very smart guys. And you find a lot of these guys will end up in situations before judges, and judges will say, really smart, had you applied yourself to the real world,
Yeah.
or to the legitimate world, you could have been a CEO, you could have been a top level guy. You know, these were smart. We get this idea that they're goons, and some of them were not nice individuals. I'd say most of them, if not all of them, were not nice individuals. But there's this element there that are very, very smart. They can see, they can read situations, are good businessmen, and a lot of it's out of necessity. If you're put in certain situations, you'll do certain things that other people might question, let's just say. But anyway, that's a separate question. I could get myself in trouble here in a moral sense.
No, good.
Not justifying anything these guys have done, but interesting to see what they're doing.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So that's the end of the rapid fire round. I usually do that just to break the ice if there is ice, or maybe there could be cement between us. I don't know. But thankfully, on this occasion, there's not, right?
Okay.
And we're going to move on to a part now, Mo, where obviously this is called Hope Sessions, and I want to have guests come on and share their story. Some people may know your story, others may not. So would you maybe for the next, whatever you're comfortable with, 10, 15 minutes, whatever, and maybe just share your journey from growing up to now?
Yeah, I suppose you're trying to think about it. Sometimes you kind of forget certain aspects and stuff. And I'm 42. Is it 42? Yeah. That's bad when you can't remember your own age. But so I grew up in a normal Irish home, and you know, we had it was fine. We played football on the road with the boys, and you know, we played. I can't understand today kids in front of computer screens for 12 and 14 hours. That makes no sense to me. We played football for 16 hours a day. You know, when our mother would come up to us and shout, "Come in for your dinner," we'd say, "We're nearly there. It's 97 all." You know, and you're going, "What? They're going to play to 100." You know, so, but you know, brilliant in a lot of ways, and so yeah, I just grew up in a normal house or whatever, and nothing different from anybody else really. I suppose then we moved house when I was about, I don't know, 10, 11, something like that. And we moved up to another area of the city, and it was a nicer house. It was a nicer area. It was wealthier. Financially, it looked like brilliant. The family are doing well. And Dad was a contractor, electrical contractor, and all this stuff. So he's done pretty well and everything, you know. But obviously, we're only kids. We don't know. But behind the scenes, the marriage was falling apart. We didn't know that. So, you know, there's all this stuff, and it was kind of like stuff was replacing what should have been there, you know. But anyway, 3-4 years later, we moved out with my mother, moved down to a situation where parents are now separated, and all the stuff that brings, all that anxiety, all that stuff. Plus, you're thrown into the mix that, you know, I'm a brat teenager like every other teenager in a sense, because everybody, you know, every teenager knows everything, really. You know, I suppose that's they think they do, you know. So that's the reality. I was in that situation. But what I didn't realize till many years later, sometimes you have to look back on a situation and say, that's amazing. I didn't realize God had his hand on me there, or God has hand me on somewhere. And one of the situations, we used to go to a place called Myrtleville. It's not far from Cork City. It's maybe 25 miles or so. But we used to go there every summer. A couple of months of the summer, we had a house down there, and it was great. Brilliant. We loved it, and I had friends down there and everything brilliant. And there was this group used to come to the beach every year for a couple of weeks, and they traveled all over Ireland, but they were called United Beach Missions.
Okay.
And they were Christians. They would come from different denominations. There was a lot of people there from Northern Ireland, Belfast, and people there from Dublin. There was some from Cork, all over the country. And they would come down and they would play games, and they would do songs, and they would do all this with us, with the kids. So from like 4 or 5 years of age up to about 12. And they had this system on it called a Pathfinder. So you started as a junior Pathfinder and then you progressed your way up to a senior Pathfinder. So over 6 or 7 years, you'd read all the 4 Gospels and you discussed them and you kind of understood a little bit more about them. And, you know, my mother would have been very open to it because she would have come through the charismatic movement in Ireland in the 70s, you know, so she was very open to that. And so we used to go down and we played games and had fun and we did all the running around and the playing football on the beach and all that and got prizes. And it was great crack. We loved it. But I got to 12 years of age or whatever it was. And I can remember one of the guys asking me, said, do you believe? Do you understand? And I had some understanding. I didn't have a full, I will be honest, I didn't have a full understanding. I won't say somehow I was in some theological genius. I certainly wasn't. But I had an understanding that there was a God. I knew who he was. I had read the Gospels. I had an understanding and I knew there was something more to just the ordinary. And the ordinary was fantastic. I mean, I didn't grow up in, thank God, I didn't grow up in a situation where there was drug or alcohol addiction or any of the sort of stuff. But you knew what right and wrong was, and you know all these things, you know, that we've been kind of taught to me. So it was great. So I remember praying, a guy praying with me, and I can even see it now. I can see the place where I was when he prayed. And I wouldn't say it had this huge effect on me, but I definitely think God had his hand on me. I know God had his hand on me because a couple of years later, all this stuff starts happening at home. Parents are splitting up. No, it was kind of happening around that time too, but it really accelerated over the next 2 years. So about just before I was hit 16, so that was maybe 12 years of age that happened. And then over the next 3 to 4 years, parents split up. I move out with my mom and blah, blah, blah and all that. So we end up in a situation where I'm a bit rebellious as a teenager. I wasn't the worst kid around, but I wasn't the best kid around. So you end up in that situation and the police were never called to the door, none of that stuff. But yeah, I still had my moments, right? So I have a guy who is a local guy, and he is crazy, right? His name is Joe. He was the first guy to do everything, the first guy to drink alcohol, the first guy to smoke cigarettes, the first guy he was just no, right? And one day I'm with another couple of guys and we're chatting to him, we're saying, oh, there's a party happening Saturday night. And he says, oh, I'm not going to go. And we're like, oh, that's all right, whatever, you know? And we're saying like, oh, do you have any cigarettes? No, I don't smoke anymore. And we're going, okay, yeah. Anyway, you know, and then it turns out he doesn't drink anymore. And he doesn't smoke weed anymore. He doesn't, all this stuff. And we're going, there's something sus here. What's happening here, you know? So eventually it comes out in the wash, as they say, that this guy is, you know, a born again, you know? And we're kind of trying to, oh, what's this about anyway? And he starts telling us all about this. And it was the same. I was looking at it going, that makes sense. I've heard that before. That makes sense to me. This, you know, and it just made sense to me. And eventually, anyway, he invited me to come along. He said, look, there's a meeting in the church. It was in someone's home. It was a Bible study. And I said, okay, yeah. So we walked down, and I was, 16, as I said, maybe just around 16 years of age. So I walked down, and I walked into the room, and I can remember talking to the other, there was 2 of us went down, and I said to the other guy, I said, look, if this gets crazy, because we didn't kind of know in one sense what we were getting involved, you know, we didn't know what the story was. But when I went into the room, I knew a lot of the people. Cork is small. Yeah. But I knew a lot of the people. Yeah. So when I say a lot, I knew 3, 4, you know, which is enough. So you go, oh, okay, I know that guy, that's okay. You know, there's maybe 20 people in the room, you know, 3 or 4, you're thinking, that's okay. I you know, it's not going to get stupid here. Yeah. But as I said to my friend, I said, look, if this gets crazy, we go. And within 5 seconds, 30 seconds of me saying that, somebody walks in behind me and there's a row of people sitting behind me and I'm thinking, we can't move. So I'm sitting there listening to this, and it was as if I had, I can say it now, it was as if I had not a laundry list, but a shopping list of questions. Sure. And it was like one person went, oh, this is the answer to this question. I went, oh, that's the question on the list. And another person went, oh, this is the answer to that question. And it was like there was a list, and I was going, answer 1, answer 2, answer 3. And it was like this, it just made sense. It was like a jigsaw puzzle, everything fit. It just made sense. And I knew God was speaking to me. I knew God was real. I'd known that before. And, you know, you just get lost in whatever in life and all this stuff. And at that age, as I said, I didn't think I was the worst kid in the world, but I wasn't the best either. And given enough time and given enough situation, I would have done a lot more damage, let's say. But so anyway, I was at home the day after, that night I went home, it was a Wednesday, and the Thursday night I was in my room, and I remember praying to God. I said, God, if you're real, I know, I believe I was saved. I became a Christian 3 or 4 years earlier when that man prayed with me.
Yeah.
But it was almost like that was the working out of it. It took a while, you know, God was saying, and years later, it was only when I look back and then I go, oh, hang on, God had his hand on me there. It wasn't me. I didn't find God. God found me.
That's right.
That was the amazing part. It wasn't, because if it was reliant on me finding him, I was finished.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen that way. We know from even scripturally and just experience of life, we don't find him, he finds us.
Right.
We're lost, he's not lost.
That's
you
right.
know, that's the incredible thing. So yeah. I start going to church, and you know, that's when was it? May 1994. I think it was 94, yeah. So that's a fair while back. So and I just lapped it up, as they say in Cork, you know, and a dog gets a bowl of water, he laps it up, and I lapped it up. It just, you know, and it was as if, as I said, I had that list of questions, but it was like any other questions, God was just answering them, you know, and I kind of don't know what to say in one sense, because you're looking back at it and there's so many aspects. You could probably talk for a half an hour on any one of those years, you know, but I ended up getting involved in youth. When I say youth, it was probably only 6 of us going, you know what I mean? So it was probably the same people that hanging around with, but it made so much sense. I remember discussing, like we'd sit in a room and there'd be 3 or 4 of us there, and we're talking about, well, what does Jesus mean when he speaks in Mark about this, or what did the Samaritan, did we talk about all the parables and, you know, the good Samaritan, everything. And it was just because that's what, all of a sudden, that's what you became interested in. I used to get launched at in school. I used to get killed. Everything always turned somehow to the Bible or somehow to thinking they're like, he's off again, you know, and it was like, you know, so like, and it wasn't, and these guys were like, they were grand. I mean, I was in school, I was a normal guy, I had to do my exams like everybody else, I had to do all that stuff. So, you know, and you're thinking, it just made sense, you know, that kind of way. And you can look back now, sometimes you don't see it at the time, especially when you're young, you don't see it. But you look back and you say, it's amazing how God had his hand on me there, that he didn't allow a certain situation to happen, or he didn't allow it, or he did allow a certain situation to happen. Sometimes you need that to wake you up, you know. Yeah. But as I said, I'm over 28, 29 years or whatever. It's been, I've worked with youth, young adults at one stage, different aspects of different everything in the church, whatever. And to be honest, it's incredible to see how God keeps people and keeps me. And sometimes we don't even, as I said, we don't even understand it at times. You look back at it and kind of go, oh, you know, I thought I was doing okay in that situation. You look back at it and go, no. You know, there was the hand, you know, it really is footprints, that old thing from the 70s or so, where, you know, I carried you. When you were weak, I carried you. That wasn't your footprints on the sand, you know, that was his. So that's the, I suppose it's, I started, and what's funny about it is sometimes you can get, we kind of have this romantic idea somehow that, you know, God will speak from the heavens and it'll be a voice and everything will be perfect. And sometimes it's a cop onto yourself, you know, it's a good old Irish saying, you know, cop onto yourself. I was, I don't know what age I was, 18, something like that. I went to college and I hated it. I spent 6 months drinking tea, right? And so anyway, I was offered, I was going for a job interview with some office supply company or whatever, and I'm sure it was a good job, there's nothing wrong with it, but my dad was an electrical contractor and me and my dad didn't get on at all. Oil and water, absolutely oil and water, and as much my fault as it is his, you know, if you know, and I'm sure he had all the other stuff, marriage splitting up, all that stuff happening, and then he has this teenage son who, you know, he doesn't get on with for whatever reasons and all that. We used to say, there was an old joke in my family. I lived for a little while with my dad in my grandparents' house when the marriage split up initially. And one of his friends turned around to me and he said, what's it like living with your dad and your granddad? And I said, well, look, I put it to you this way. I said, my granddad's never, ever, ever wrong. My dad's never, ever wrong. And I'm just never wrong. You know, I thought it was it was one of those, it's a real Irish way of putting it. Like, you know, there's no way I'm ever going to be wrong, but at different levels, you know. So So, so obviously you had, I was bullheaded basically, and there was a man who I deeply respected, Nick Cassidy, senior pastor Nick's dad, at the time said to me, I'm trying to remember the exact words now, swallow your pride, shut up and take God's blessing, when my dad offered me a trade. And I was like, I'm going, sometimes you're going, God's going to speak from the heavens. No, sometimes he's going to say, cop onto yourself.
Yeah.
I'm giving you a blessing, accept it and be grateful and be graceful in it. And and it's going to hurt. You're going to have to deal with that man every day, and you're going to have to, because it's, I'm going to have to knock off rough edges in you. And he's going to have to knock off rough edges in me. And one of the ways he does that is he baits two rocks off each other. And unfortunately, we're two rock-headed Egypts. But anyway, we get on a lot better now. So, but, sometimes we kind of have this, as I said, romantic idea, but there's a realism to life as well, And, I can say honestly, I can look back at aspects of life and say, I could have done things better. I could have been more graceful to people. I could have been more gracious to people. I could have been more honest. I could have been lots of things. But what I can honestly say in it, God kept me through whatever the situations, and all through my 20s, I had plenty of work. I had a few bob. I had all this stuff, and I had stuff I was able to do. That wasn't just stuff. You could do stuff. All my family are involved in some form of volunteer work, from community centres to working in volunteer capacities of credit unions and youth clubs and Meals on Wheels. And I worked in every single one of them. Politics was a big thing in our family. I was out canvassing for guys when I was 15, 16, whatever. It's just we always talk politics and in the house thing. So a lot of blessings in that way. But, a good kind of community spirit in that sense. But if that's all it is, then you kind of go, yeah, that's grand. It's nice. Don't get me wrong. Those things are, and I think those things are very valuable and all those. But when it comes to stuff of the gospel, and you say it's got a deeper meaning, it doesn't just touch someone socially. It's lovely that when it does touch somebody socially, and it's fantastic. And when you work in youth, young adults, all those areas, you're allowed to be part of something that God is doing, and you meet. It's fascinating to me now, because someone would say to me, "Oh, do you remember such and such a guy?" And I'd say, "Yeah, I remember that guy as a 5-year-old kid. He's pastoring a church now." And I'm going, "That's incredible." And you're going, I got to be a small part of that journey, even if it's only a small. That's brilliant. That's an incredible thing. And it goes a lot deeper than, volunteering at whatever situation. They're wonderful, and all those things are great to be involved in. But when it comes to the gospel, and when it comes to church, and when it comes to not church necessarily, but when it comes to the gospel and yes, church, but not in a, in that sense, you understand what I mean? Yeah. It goes much, much deeper, because it is men's souls. That's the reality. You can have an aspect, and, we read in the gospel about, Jesus fed people, but then he went to their other problem. He dealt with their initial problem, and then he went deeper and went, you've got a bigger problem than an empty belly. And that's the incredible thing. And you've got a bigger problem than a social need, and it's educational or any of these situations. They're important situations, but the deeper need is more important. To do all that and not go to the deeper need, it seems such a shame. So that's what's incredible when it comes to working in anything church-wise or anything like that. So that's pretty cool, I will say. So yeah, I suppose different, as you said, you mentioned it earlier, working in Summer Fire, that's been pretty cool, just over the years, different aspects and whatever. And look, whatever talents you have, you try and put them to, everybody has a different talent, but I suppose it's what Paul talks about in the body. One part of the body, if you feel pain, the whole body feels pain. But if you have a skill and an ability, whoever's in front of the camera, you've got to have somebody behind the camera. You've got to have somebody editing. You've got to have somebody sweeping and cleaning the place. You've got to, all these people are as vitally important as the next, So we all have our place to be, was it Nehemiah? I should know. Was it Nehemiah that stood in the gap in the wall. That was it. I think it was Nehemiah, and that's the reality. Sometimes it's literally going, I don't think I have any talent. I don't think I have any ability. I don't think I have anything that's that good.
Yeah.
But I can stand in a wall with a sword and a trowel and a brick. And that's what they literally did. They stood in a wall and they built up with a brick and trowel or whatever building materials they had at the time. And in the other hand was a sword, because those boys were coming down to cut them.
Yeah.
And you had to be able to drop the brick and defend yourself. And if that's all you've got, that's enough. God doesn't need your talent, your ability. He just needs you there. That's the reality, you know. So whatever talent he's given you, use it to the best of your ability, you know.
Brilliant.
And when you fail, and you will fail, get up and do it again.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's
Do you know
it's
what?
the reality.
I'm refreshed by just hearing your story, because
Yeah.
I mean, I've known you for a couple of years now, and I've
Yeah,
never.
yeah.
I mean, I've been in church with you, friendship and all that, like, but I've never actually known your story. And now that I know your story, I've gained a bit more of a deeper appreciation for you, because I know the journey you've been on. You've just shared it there.
Mhm.
I think that's wonderful. And even just to transition now into, we're coming to a close on this particular episode. I like to go into a questions and answer segment. So I've just written down a couple of questions that I think would
Yeah.
be cool just to hear your response on them. And I'm just going to kick it off if you're cool with that.
Yeah, cool. Yeah.
Brilliant. How have you been using your time in lockdown? Like, what have you been doing? Have you been scheduling or?
I try and I do I can work online, so I can do work and whatever. So I do a bit of that, whatever is necessary, whatever is needed. And one of the things I attempted, I am stone deaf, as they say in Ireland. I'm actually going deaf in one ear. I think I am anyway, because I can't. Maybe it's just getting old. I can't remember. I can't figure it out. But anyway, and I think I'm tone deaf. But I have attempted to hack at a guitar, and I still haven't got a song down. But you know, don't worry. I think Steve McBride's job is pretty safe as the leader of worship in Summer Fire. I won't be taking that crown anytime soon. But no, I try and read as much as I can. I would probably read maybe a couple of hours a day, if not. Yeah, I would say I'd have to. You know, it just one of the things. My favorite place in the world is in the car. There's a McDonald's near me. I get a coffee and I sit in the car and I read, and I'm happy. That's you know, that's me. I'm cushy with that. If you're going to lock me in a place ever, lock me in a library. I'd be happy. But yeah.
I love it. The next one I have, Mo, is what are you looking forward to most about when the lockdown period ends? Is there a specific thing you like doing that you can't do now, or a shop you're looking forward to going to, or?
Not really. Well, Waterstones is kind of my favorite shop, but I can we could go in and out of that a bit, so that wasn't too bad. But I think just hanging out with people, going to the beach, having a barbecue, hanging out, just going back to church on Sunday morning, being able to sit down after church on Sunday morning, usually having a cup of coffee with somebody, saying, "How are you?" That's brilliant. And I've been a lot luckier than a lot of people. I've been a lot more blessed, I should say. I do some work inside the church with electrical. We put in a new recording studio in the church and stuff like that. During the first lockdown, we were allowed work. It was considered an emergency job, so I was allowed to do that. So we did. I was able to get out for maybe 2-3 weeks, get that all job up and started and stuff like that. And then there's a lot of jobs around the church and stuff like that. So I was delighted to be able to do them. It kind of got me. So I was lucky, and I did some work for Feed Cork with deliveries, and we did some stuff. So I'm kind of in a sense, maybe, this people think you're great doing it in one sense, say, "Oh, brilliant, well done, you've done that." And I'm thinking, I'm delighted to get out of the house. So I see it as a double blessing. I'm able to bless somebody and be blessed at the same. So it's great. But so yeah, I think the best thing is just be able to hang out with people and just go to people's houses and go to church and not have to worry about, am I social distanced enough? Am I 2 meters away from people? Am I 15 minutes in the room with him or her or whatever? And so
it's true. I agree with that as well. The next question I have, Mo, is what's the one thing that you have learned in life that you wish you knew when you were younger?
Oh,
bit of a long, lengthy question, but I think it's definitely a powerful one.
I don't know. I read a book a few years ago, and it was called Letters to My 16-Year-Old Self, and I thought it was a very interesting idea. And it was, what would you, if you could go back, what would you tell your 16-year-old self?
Yeah.
I don't know, to be honest. Like, and I think the only thing I would like to be more, I'd like to have had more discipline.
Okay.
As in focus. I've got a brother and he's just focused. This guy just says, I'm going to study. He's in college at the minute. I'm going to study for 4 hours. You will not see him for 4 hours. He is studying. That's it. He's just bullet focused. He's, you know, I'm terrible. I really am a, what do they call it? A magpie. Okay. Shiny objects. I'm gone. You get me on YouTube, you won't see me for 4 hours. And I can't tell you what I looked on because I'm doing this thing and you know, it's like an example. I'll give you an example. I've got a book here on the science of strong materials. Right. I've got one about bees. I've got one about quantum physics, and I've got one about drugs and drug addiction. So, and that's only a touch on it. And I haven't read all of them at all, but I'm reading. I've read one, but you know, it's just every topic everywhere. I'm just, I wish I could be more focused. That's the only thing I wish I could be, you know. Brilliant. But I suppose, look, it's answering the initial question, what have I learned? God is good. Yeah. That's all I can say. It's the reality when I'm not, and which is most of the time, actually all the time. But he is. That's it. And you know. Yeah. Hopefully, I adhere to that. That's and I know that for the rest of my life. If that's all I learn, and I can't remember any of the books, and that's all I can remember, I'm doing pretty okay, I think. So anyway.
And the last question I have, Mo, is if you could pick 3 people, whether they're dead or alive, to have dinner with, who would you pick and why?
Oh, wow. Obviously, we're assuming Jesus isn't in that mix because that's just an automatic.
Well, with him or without him doesn't matter. He's your life, so he's
okay. Well, excluding Jesus, we'll say because you're just three ordinary humans, we'll say. Yeah. Wow, that's a tough one. Yeah, I think you'd have to have. I said have to have, and I'm trying to think, do I actually have to have? I think you'd have to have the Apostle Paul in there.
Yeah.
You couldn't not, you know. No, he'd probably take over the room, but still an order. I'd shut him up. I'd pork chops up there and see what happens. No, but he'd be okay with that. I'm joking. No, I'm joking. So Paul, wow, that's a tough one. No. I'm trying to think who I could specific, because there's loads of people you'd kind of want to. Mine has gone blank. Wow, that's a tough one. Now. John Milton, I think.
Okay.
He was a poet. He was an English poet, but he was a Christian. Genius isn't the word. Okay. This man spoke bucket loads of languages and wrote Paradise Lost and Paradise Regained, incredible 1,000-line poems and all these things, incredible stuff. So Milton, just to listen to him, and who was it? Yeah, I think. Yeah, I don't. Yeah, there's a mix-up for the kind of a mash-up for the last one. It's 3 people.
Yeah, you have 2.
Okay, I have 2, so I got one more. It's really going on a bit, isn't it? Johannes Kepler. He was a scientist, but again, genius of geniuses, incredible. Learned to speak a different language so that he could become a lawyer for his mother to defend her against in a courtroom, and won the case. That's the kind of level of genius of that. And I would just sit in that room and listen to the lads talking and just go, you know, be a sponge. So that would be, I wouldn't open my mouth in that room other than to say, do you want more food or do you want more something? Because I just want to listen. So anyway.
Mo, I love that. That was brilliant, just even hearing those questions as well. Mo, we've come to the end of our episode, but I do want to thank you so much for just coming on, giving up your time. And for those of you guys that have just joined in with this episode, whether it's on the video or an audio that you're listening to at the moment. We're looking forward to just seeing you guys come back every week. Each week we're going to have a different guest on. This is Hope Sessions. My name's Jerry D, and I hope you have a wonderful week. Take care. God bless. Thank you for listening to this week's episode of the Hope Sessions podcast with me, Jerry D. Don't forget to subscribe and make sure that you never miss an episode. Also, if you could leave a review and share it with your friends to help spread the word about this podcast, it would be a massive help. Take care and see you next time. Remember, hope is to life as oxygen is to the body.